All right, now it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, please write it down and give it to one of our volunteers. All right. Yeah. All right, to start off, quickly go over what is your background. You know, you said you came from Canada. Where was your education, and most importantly, what brought you to Korea?
Okay, so I was born in Canada, first generation Canadian. I went to a classics university first for a year. I got a diploma in classics, and then I went to a private university to continue my studies in English language and literature and art history. I decided to skip my graduation ceremony at that university and come directly to Korea, where I've been teaching for 4 years. I've skipped it. I've been in Korea for 4 years now. I've been working at Samyuk Elementary School my entire time here. I worked there for 3 years as a 3rd grade teacher. I'm still the 3rd grade teacher, but now I'm the head teacher there as well. And love it in Korea. It's been very helpful.
Okay, good. Now, how did you get involved in the program, in person?
I actually first started getting involved with the bake sales. What I ended up doing was I would bake pies with Andrew Glassblom, who was a particularly good pie baker, and he decided, you know what, I'm gonna help out. And then I decided to join him, and so at one of the bake sales we did a marathon of baking pies for people to watch and purchase. Basil was actually very helpful there because he kept on buying apples to bring there for the pies. And so that was a lot of fun. That was at the old underground grocer location. That was a lot of fun to do. And helping out in that way made me want to help out in other ways as well. And so I worked with Daniel, I worked with Al a little bit, and we kind of moved on from there. And Sunjin and I, we moved from there, and we really helped out.
One question is, what would you describe the conditions orphans live in Korea?
The conditions that orphans live in here, it's not terrible. I know there are orphans in other countries that live in absolutely deplorable conditions, but some of the orphans, at least in Gwangju, the places where they live are actually quite nice. They're comfortable. There are beds for them to sleep in. There are people to look after them. A lot of them come from a religious background. Like I know there's one where it's affiliated with a church, and they take care of the orphans in that big building up there. They're not terrible, but it could always be better. It could always be better for orphans simply because there's one thing that they're lacking, and that's consistent love. People to tend after them, people to look after them, people to give them leadership, people to give them guidance. There's only so much that 10 volunteers can do for 100 kids. It takes a lot of energy to do that, and what they need more than anything is the loving concern of everybody else in this community as well. So you can say that, yeah, the living conditions are comfortable, but the conditions for their hearts and for their spiritual upbringing and for their mental upbringing could be much, much better.
Yes, so you mentioned a lot about donating gifts and adopt a child. What future plans could be put in place to improve their spiritual upbringing?
Well, for mental and spiritual, what I would like to see is more Korean agencies involved providing counseling for these children, preventing guidance, basically providing ways that these children can proceed with their lives. Sponsorship, a scholarship for these children to go to university, that would be great to see. I want to see Koreans also, beside expats, I want to see them working together to take these children and send them to achieve their dreams. It shouldn't be just the ones who can take care of themselves. It should be everybody who has an equal opportunity to achieve what they want in life.
Okay, speaking on topic of gifts, is there a gift list? Are there favorite gifts that the orphans have?
Basically what's going to end up happening is we are going to get a list of 10 different clothing items, 10 different toy items, and 5 different footwear items. And that's going to be on a list that we then distribute to the orphans. The orphans will choose the item of their choice off that list, indicate a color, and then we will then hand these lists off basically to a provider. Dickies will probably once again help us out with the clothing. There's another store in NCUA that will help us out with shoes, and then Toys R Us will help us out with toys. And so we give the shopping list to them, and then they'll fill all of those for us.
And most importantly of all, are the children told that these gifts are from Santa?
Actually no, it's going to be from the people themselves. You can sign the card with your own name, and that makes it even just a little bit more personal that, hey, it's not just Santa that cares about you, it's people. It's actual people living in this community that care about you as well.
Ah, awesome. Why do you think Gwangju has been so supportive as compared to other cities?
Oh, why is Gwangju more supportive? I really think that it has to do with the efforts of expats and like-minded Koreans working together to bring this community to a point where people are living in harmony with each other and want to really surge forward for the betterment of the people living in this city. Gwangju has always been kind of it's kind of stuck out in the rest of Korea simply because democracy was born here. And so Gwangju has always gone a little bit against the grain. And in this case, it's a good thing. Going against the grain for Gwangju is a good thing here because they are really, really reaching out to the foreigners and they really want to see people working towards the same goals.
Yes, you've mentioned that a lot of expats have got involved, and you expressed the desire to see more Koreans get involved. Have they been more involved?
Yes.
Has there been continued commitment?
Absolutely. There's been a lot more Korean involvement in the past years, and we only see the Korean involvement growing. And what we would actually like to see is, I will be leaving after this year for other Cs. And what we would like to see is actually Koreans take over the program from the expats, and then basically take this program and make it grow even more. There's only so much that an expat can do because they're limited by language, they're limited by influence in the community. A Korean of a high position, a respectable position, and with a warm heart would be able to take the program even farther than we could. And we would like to see Koreans take over this program and move it to even greater heights.
Okay, another last part of Q&A. We'd like to talk about what you can do as a volunteer and how best to get into a volunteer role. What would you need? What time commitments would you be looking at?
You are looking at, it's a relatively light time commitment in the grand scheme of things. Like we're only looking for like maybe an hour or two per week. But you need to be motivated, you need to be determined, and you need to have a heart for the people. You really need to care for others. You need to be moved by the situation of orphans, that they don't have parents, or they don't have people that care for them as deeply as your own parents care for you. And what we need from volunteers is passion, empathy, sympathy, and a desire to see these orphans basically move forward. We want to see people who will help these orphans recognize their dreams. And I think that's the biggest thing we want to see in our volunteers.
Speaking, if you are a volunteer, what future plans would you be doing as a volunteer? You've spoken about what you've done in the past. What future things would you do?
In this year's program, it's actually not that much in the way of working with the children. You'll be helping to arrange Christmas parties at some of the orphanages. You will be helping to wrap the presents when they come in. You will be helping spreading the word, advertising, and we'll also be using you as kind of a pool for brains, like basically fundraisers. We will be tapping into your brains and we'll be like, okay, so what's your idea for a fundraiser? How can we raise money for this fund? How can we raise this money for this program? And we're going to ask you to contribute ideas as well. And if your idea is particularly, if it's unique, and if we think that it's going to be worth the time that we put into it, then we're going to ask you to also set that up. And we'll pour a lot of our resources into that.
So it must be a very heartwarming and rewarding experience. As for our final question, could you share one of these experiences you may have had yourself?
One of the experiences I've had, I've never been a person that actually gets right. I can't get in, I can't. Okay. It touches me in such a way to see that people care about others in a way that that touches the people themselves. Orphans they don't have people to care for them. And to see the joy in their eyes, to see the light in their eyes as they receive the gift that they weren't even expecting, it's absolutely moving. We dropped off gifts at, I think it was Yeongdae, I think is one of the, Yeongsin. Yeongsin is one of the orphanages here, and we dropped off a gift there. And we were met by a swarm of children, about 100. And they were holding our hands, like they were pulling the gifts out of our hand to carry them and set them neatly on the floor. They weren't opening up the presents. They were putting them on the floor so they could open them later, and so we wouldn't be burdened with these gifts ourselves. That they wanted to just be there and hug us, and they wanted to keep us close because they so appreciated the effort that this program put in for them. And for me, that was waterworks all over. It was touching like you wouldn't believe.
I'm afraid that's about all the time we've got for Q&A. I'm sorry if I didn't get to ask your question, but our speaker will be around later if you want to ask him yourself. He's not going anywhere too fast. And I'll hand it over back to our host. Thank you very much.